Because when you think about leadership, you usually think about how am I doing out there? And how you're doing out there in your outer leadership are directly related to your inner leadership. So you need the time. You need to set the time to become conscious.
Do you ever feel stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure about what to do next to grow your business? You are not alone, and this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Boost Your Business by Business Heroes. This is where service-based entrepreneurs, whether you're delivering in person, online, or a mix of both, come to get the strategies, the insights, and actionable steps you need to level up your business with clarity, confidence, and impact. So let's dive in. Hi, Anna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. It's really nice to be here, Sarah.
I am so looking forward for our conversation today. So let's start by you introducing yourself to the audience for those that do not know you yet.
So I live in the south of Sweden, Helsingborg, but in wintertime, I has been a digital nomad now actually since 2016. So I love to be where it's warm wintertime, and I love to be outside, nature, and also adventures. So I've went with motorcycle to Sahara Desert and back again, things like that. I like to be surprised in life. It though hasn't always been like that, so that was quite, a shift for me when I had a burnout a very long time ago, like in 2000, and that's where I also shifted my life a lot into what we're going to talk about today. I am the founder of Aiming Conscious Living and Leadership, and I'm providing team and leadership development, coaching, and transformational retreats around the world.
Wow. And how long have you had your business?
So I started my first business when I was 18, actually. So I've been a coach for 30 years, had retreats for 20, and working in corporate world for about 15 with management.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you know all about entrepreneurships and all the back and forth.
Yeah, I do.
Well, good to have you here. So we have something really exciting to talk about when it comes to this mode we come into when we are all achievers in our goal, like in our mindset, and we are pushing forward. And I think that sometimes we look at people and they seem to have everything together. They have it all. And we look from the outside, but from the inside, the person's feeling a different way. So why is that?
The whole setting of our society is promoting successfulness and how you're supposed to be. And it's almost like good to have a lot to do in the calendar because then you mean you are someone and things like that. So I think that's part of it. It also has to do with shame, that it's not okay if you don't. So those two things is also creating a lot of that strive to achieve and achieve and achieve.
And when you are in that like achievement mode, but you feel like you are like ashamed, like you said, that you are not doing it too much, like you're not doing everything that you should, but you are still in this hustle mode and you're trying to achieve things and you feel like you are inside of yourself. You feel like you are not enough. And why is that? Do you know, I know that you are into like human design and all those other things. Can you find this psychology around that?
Yeah, so I am a therapist also, so I've been working with that for a long time as well. And we come to, because the things that I was talking about before is a lot about the outer environment. When we come to the inner environment, I also listened to your pod with Maria and the inner child. And, we have all our upbringing that creates all these different patterns in our life. So if we have not been seen or heard or different kinds of needs is not fulfilled or said, that will be strategies we take further on in life to protect that part of ourselves. So if we have a bad self-esteem, we try to do everything outside ourselves to confirm that feeling of being seen or heard or loved or whatever that is. So then the achievement also becomes to fill a hole that is actually inside. And that is also what this inner leadership is about, because we can never fulfill it outside.
I totally agree with you on that. And That's why I feel like sometimes when people say, oh, I'm so busy and everything, I meet people at conferences, or I meet people and they're like, oh, I'm super busy. And I was like, well, are you doing actually the right thing? Or why are you doing all those things? Because I think that sometimes we do too much. So what does fulfill success mean for you?
For me, it means like, because I met so many people that you could say that I have it all, but you know, you have the house and you have the good work and you have relationships and all of that, and still you feel empty inside. So for me, about conscious and feeling fulfilled inside is about actually turning your focus inside to see all these part of yourself that maybe had not been seen. Then and that I stop and really listen to what is my emotions and what are the needs behind them. So I have a really simple tool. It's a stoplight. You can imagine that the red light is in your head. It's stop, observe, just see what's going on. Then you dive into your belly, your gut feeling, and there are your feelings. What do I feel? Because every feeling has a need behind it. So if I'm frustrated, maybe I'm not respected, maybe I don't have clarity. It can be different things. If I'm sad, maybe I haven't been heard or listened to, whatever it is. So every feeling has a need behind it. And when I find what that need is, I can go to the green light. That would be like the lower part of the body, your legs. That is about what shall I do? And sometimes it's actually put yourself in the sofa and don't do anything. But it's like taking me to a conscious leadership where I fulfill the things that are from within. So I listen to my heart, I listen to my feelings, I listen to my belly and see like, okay, what is it that I actually, what I want? Not listen to every other's suggestions or needs or whatever that is. And then you will be fulfilled because you will actually satisfy these parts of you that comes from within.
And I think that's something that you now talk about is like everybody else is doing something and you're going to do it yourself. I think that there's so many trends out there. There is so many suggestions. There is so many coaches saying you should do this. And it's like instead of like saying, hi, I know what I need to do myself. If I'm just listening from my inside, I know what to do. And I know that these trends are not for me. If it's dancing on TikTok or if it's like starting a podcast, if it's not for you, you shouldn't do it. Even if someone says, love, everybody's doing that and you should too. Like, I think that's like this is really interested to not push yourself doing something that's not for you.
Yeah. And one thing that I kind of caught myself in, that is what you're talking about, Sarah, was the algorithms. Yeah. To be stuck there, like, what should you do on social media when you need to get your business out and stuff? Like, but no, it's I just have to find a way. Of course, you can listen to like what works and not, but you cannot be hooked and stuck in it because it will tear you apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The entrepreneurs out there that are service-based businesses, why do you think that they look outside for directions instead of looking inside themselves?
I mean, first of all, it's very easy. If you imagine that the society is set up for a certain way, it's so easy to step into that box and, you know, listen to it and do that. And it takes so much courage. It takes so much discipline. It takes so much consciousness to not follow the sheep that goes in front of you. So it takes a lot of, you know, power within yourself to dare to go in another direction. So to be able to do it, I also think that is why we need to stop. That's why we need to listen within. And that's the practice. It's not like, okay, now I'm going to listen to hear what my heart says, because you need some practice to actually be able to do it. As any practice, if you go to the gym, you will not lift the weights the first time that you want to lift. It's a practice.
And I also like the tool that you just gave us with the stoplight, because when you feel like, oh, I should go and no, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should listen to the stoplight and the green light and the yellow light to see if this is going to be my thing. So instead of just like saying, hey, I know I'm conscious that something's going on there, but is that a trend that I need to follow? Or is that a solution that I need? So yeah, really good. Thank you.
Yeah. And when we can understand that our emotions is our signal system. If the emotion is saying like, no, then you know you need to look at something. Something is not right here. And when you feel, passion and joy and that you're so like inspired and everything, you're on the right track.
You are in your genius zone and doing what you're here to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
So when you look at the conscious leadership as a theme, what do you think what is the biggest difference from like traditional leadership?
I think it's just what we talked about, that you actually need to, because when you think about leadership, you usually think about how am I doing out there and how you're doing out there in your outer leadership are directly related to your inner leadership. So you need the time. You need to set the time to become conscious. I mean, if you're going to learn a new system, you need time you can't just do that system directly. You need to take time for it. So the thing is that it's not so concrete. It's more abstract. When you talk about leadership, it's emotions and it's how do I feel? How do I think? How do I, make decisions and things? So that's why it's sometimes hard for people, but it is a practice to come back to that conscious awareness of being still, listening to yourself, take time for it, reflect. We can do it in different things, in different ways. I mean, we can reflect. When you get ideas, is usually when you're in the shower, when you're out running, it's when your mind is still. It's not when you're busy.
Yeah, and that's why I walk the dogs. I love that because when I just step outside my door, close it off, I just go into nature and just have time off, it seems like I am more present when I come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I also think that when we talk about this conscious leadership, I think it's different for men and females. And when it comes to leadership, when we started to come into like the females came into the workplace and we started to get leadership positions, we were mimicking the men leadership. And when we started feeling and doing leadership, people were looking at us very strangely and say, hey, she's not a leader. And I think that is because it's like a format or boxes that we put ourselves in and we try to mimic something instead of feeling, okay, you know what, when I'm a leader, this is how I lead. I lead myself this way and I lead others this way. And when you are a natural leader, people will follow you and they will ask for your guidance. But I think that nowadays we have a more mix. We have like men who has more female attracted leadership. We have females that do a mix or something else. Like now it's like more blended, more natural for people to step into the natural role of leadership. And I think that is so good to see.
Yeah. And if we can balance, because it's not about female or male, it's about the masculine and feminine within you. That is the passive, the act, not passive in the way, it's more, I would say receptive instead, to use a better word. So it's receptiveness and it's action. And we always need to be in both of them, whether you're a man or a woman, if you're going to have a conscious leadership. Because if you're not receptive, you will not take in what the coworkers' needs are, for example, or feedback or whatever it is. You need to be in that way as well and not think that, okay, I'm the leader and I'm choosing this or I decide this. I had this example of a very interesting, it's about sales. One of the super great salesmen in this particular company, he was like, tried to get this customer, he was selling and he was like, he had this, and he actually hadn't understood the customer. And then this more introverted, soft, quite new sales girl, she went out, or saleswoman, I would say, she went out, she saw the customer on the parking spot, and he had this particular, like, really, really nice car. And she went there and said, oh, wow, very special car. And, listened to him, and he talked about the car. He was so passionate, like, he came in, he signed the contract. Just because he was, listening, receptive, that was the selling point. Because all business or all, like, it's about relationships, about being trustworthy. It's about that genuinity that you were talking about. If you have that in your leadership, then people will follow, as you say.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. So thank you for clarifying that. And that example is really good because I think that sometimes when we talk about sales, we think about these pushy salesmen, especially car salespeople that are not listening, but are just pushing their product or pushing their service. And the audience that usually follow the business heroes are usually not in sales mode. They are in service mode. It's not selling a product and say, hey, I'm shipping that to you. It's like inviting someone to your world saying, hey, I feel like I can help you. You want me to help you transition into this person or change this pattern or this behavior.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we identify sales with a sales lead, like a sales role. And we don't want to have that sales role because we're service-based business owners. We just want a service. And I think that is a good way of saying that, you know what, you can actually be a salesperson and you can also be of service and actually help people make the right decision. So,
yeah, absolutely. And also the combination of that, if you say, I know some people don't like to say about it's not soft that I mean, Sarah, but in mjuk, it's not soft, but like when we say the human resources part and the business part, the hard and the soft. I don't know the English word, but anyhow. And that was actually something when we met the first time, that was something that I saw brought with me because I felt the heartfelt of that humanity in that part in your business. And then I was so impressed about your structure and, you know, the business setup and all of that you have. So I think that is also, and it's also combined with this masculine, feminine within ourselves, whether we are like a woman or a man. So these two, brain and heart, is so valuable also to think about when it's conscious leadership.
absolutely. And I think that I have such a mindset when it comes to helping our members of the Business Heroes Academy, for example, that sometimes you have to be this, like, I'm straight at it. I'm pushing them forward because I know they can do it. They have it within themselves to do it. And I'm not sugarcoating what they need to do or how they should behave differently. Sometimes that's the case when I do, and that's very masculine energy. But that's what they need. They need this kick in the butt kind of thing to say, hey, no more sitting on the couch. You can do this. And they get that energy and they're up and running and they come back the next week for the meeting and say, hey, you know what? I didn't know that I had it within me, but I got it from you. And I know that you believed in me. So now I did it. And now I believe in myself because I did it. And I was like, yes, that's really good. But sometimes there's a conflict between team members and you are like in the middle of it and you don't see any way out and you don't feel enough. Maybe you don't need that masculine energy. You need to sit in the female energy to like really digest it and be in the feeling and not be afraid of being in the feeling and then have a strategy to actually move on. So I think that when I lead the groups, I'm very conscious of what kind of energy they need to make that change or make that pivot. And I think that's really interesting then to have this conversation with you that talks about the same kind of energies and how we can be conscious when to use what to make the difference we want in the world.
I had a coach very early, or a mentor very early in my company, in one of my other companies. And you know, I was sitting there complaining a bit about, you know, all the things that I don't, because I feel myself as a round person. It's a lot of very much, you know, square structured things that I don't like so much. And I was sitting there whining about it. And then he just looks at me and listens. And, you know, I have very, very, I trust him very well. I trusted him very well. And then suddenly he just looks up and says, now I'm going to swear, but that's what he did. When are you going to fucking grow up? And I was like, it was the best feedback I could get at that time. I mean, because he knew me at that time. It could be the worst also, but he was just like saying, when are you going to grow up? And I was like, yeah, maybe right now.
But that's like Tony Robbins is really good talking about that there is different stage, like we are in different stage. And sometimes we have to be in that stage to actually evolve. but we cannot stay stuck too long. And sometimes when you get stuck too long, that's when you feel like there is no solution to this. I'm not worthy and I can't do this. And I don't have the tool set. I don't have the people around me that can make it happen and they can't see anything. Yeah. And that's when it's good to have a coach or someone that, like you had, that can say, okay, you have been in this feeling now too long. Well, you have to move to another phase. Yeah.
And also that you have maybe different, like now I have an amazing coach, Archer Inspiration. His name is Kenny in South Africa. And depending on where you are also in your own state or in your company. Now I'm working with my business. So then you maybe need that kind of person to support you. And then maybe you need a person who supports your inner leadership. So, and you should, it doesn't matter. I mean, you are a coach. I'm a coach. I still need a coach. I'm going to need a coach until I, like we develop always. And that's magical.
But that's also a way of, like, if you are always outputting for everyone else, how would you input? Like, that's why I go to conferences. That's why I go to networking. That's why I go to sessions. That's why I have a coach in different areas of my life at different point of time. It's because I need to have input. Otherwise, I can't have outputs. So I think when we talk about these practices of supporting fulfilled success, do you have any other kind of tools or things that we can use in our day, like on a daily basis to move from where we are, maybe not that conscious, and we are very curious of actually moving into that direction?
Yeah, I like quotes. And I have one quote. I have some I can share, but I have one that is, where focus goes, energy flows. So I try to keep my focus on the things that is going into flow or being beneficial or being positive or being, so where focus goes, energy flows. And if I'm, for example, too much in details, I need to shift focus. If I'm too much in I'm just visioning everything, it's going to be I need maybe to shift focus sometimes. So where focus goes, energy flows. I love that one. And also something, if you want to, because we know study-wise and science-wise that when we become an optimist first, instead of we think that, okay, if I just reach this, then I will be happy. No, if you come to being optimist first, we know it's 30% more productivity. There's a lot of benefits with being in that positive state. And I have a quote that is interesting. What is possible now? So whatever happens, if you have a parking ticket, whatever happens, okay, interesting, what's possible now? It will take you from a negative state to a positive. And I'm also going to say that it's not that I'm, not embracing what is when we feel bad, or it's not like, hey, everything is always perfect. It's not about that. But so many times you go into the things that it's not really beneficial for you. And then to just keep your mind on having a positive attitude will help you also come through those things. And even when I have struggles, even if I cry, even if I'm whatever it is, I can allow myself and I be there and I embrace it, I take care of it. But then I can also at the same time see, I know I'm in a deep hole right now, but I know that this is the treasure to something else. So even if you're super stuck or there's this hinders in front of you, whatever, you know that this is just a step. It's just a leap of my own transformation. This is just a leap of my next level. So can you have that in mind? It helps. Oh, that was a long answer. Sorry, Sarah.
No, but I think it's so important that you feel all the feelings, that you're not closing in yourself. I'm saying, hey, and you can also sometimes give you a time frame. Say, hey, it's okay to feel this way for this amount of time. Then I have to have a strategy to get out of there, so I'm not stuck too long. And I think that.
But do you know what the difference? Do you know what the difference is? What you're saying now, the difference of taking charge in a conscious leadership, because what you're saying now is okay, I'm going to have 2 days in the sofa with a blanket on and I'm going to drink tea and eat ice cream. I don't know, whatever. But I choose it. The problem comes where we get stuck in the victimhood of not choosing it and I can't get up of the sofa. That's the different thing.
Yeah.
So when you choose, I allow myself to whatever I want to do, to feel like this right now. And then I choose to get out of it as well.
Yeah.
That's the conscious part of the leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that my key point also is that it's okay to feel lousy. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have all those feelings as well as being happy. Sometimes when members come to Business Heroes Academy meetings and we have like a round table discussion and someone says like, hey, you know what? Like I won that client that I wanted for like a year. And I was like, why don't you celebrate it? And they said like, well, they always feel like, oh, it's been so tough to get that client when they finally landed. It's like,
Yeah.
they don't know how to celebrate it because they're so super happy that they came into the final, like the goal, but then they don't have a plan for how do you actually celebrate that? Is that going on like, on a retreat, or is that going to like a date night with your husband, or is it actually buying that new computer that you wanted? Whatever that was, maybe you should put that like goal in mind before how you celebrate it, because sometimes people are so afraid of actually celebrating good things as well. And it's not just feeling the bad things when you feel bad, but like be really super happy as jumping around saying, hey, I got it. Sometimes.
I so agree with you, Sarah. To take the time to, there's a saying, let's take the juiciness out of it, and to really like, pick the apples when you have nurtured the tree for so long. I think it's really, really important what you're saying, because that is also connected to that science about when we are in a nice vibe and a nice state, we attract more of it. So when we're celebrating, we will celebrate more wins and more wins and more wins as well.
Yeah. Going out on social media, say, hey, I landed a client, or just have that. If you are going to do a dance on TikTok, do that for celebration of like something that you achieved or something you did, because then people will lean in and say, hey, what happened? What made you so happy? And then they will be able to have that conversation. So it could be a really good conversation starter as well.
Absolutely.
So, but I think that sometimes when we think about the way we do business, it's like hard numbers, it's sales, it's conversions, it's how many people looked at your Instagram, and we're so focused on all the tech stuff or the hard number stuff. So being in feelings, I think, completes us as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and it's natural. It's part of it. It's not something we should avoid or not be in, because it's part of the journey. I mean, the valleys and the hills, it's as natural as that, and we're growing. Things are growing in the valleys. It's not growing on the top. So we need to have both. We need to be there.
Yeah. So when we look at when we are in this conscious mind, and we have this conscious leadership, both for ourselves, but also for other people, what is possible?
Everything is possible. Everything is possible. That's the thing, because you don't limit yourself. And one thing is that you don't limit your, the view of what's possible. I'm not saying that conscious leadership actually exactly is translated to that, but when you come to that state, you will come to that state that it's limitless. Then it's another way to really, allow the whole body and the system that is so much slower than your consciousness is, to get the body to go in that direction. I mean, if I say to you, imagine yourself now, Sarah, you're on Lidl and you're buying these tomatoes. You go there directly. But if you would take your body there, it would, I need to go out to the car. I need to drive there. It's so much slower. So we need patience for the part of us that is not there yet. So first of all, that it's everything becomes possible. Have patience for the parts that is not ready there. And also, like, whatever happens when it comes to those hinders, because they will come. They will come. That's just how life is. When you have a conscious leadership, as I said before, you will know that even those are part of the process. Even those are the treasures to whatever is next. And then you can dive into them and go fully into them, of what you said before, like, okay, I can feel sad, I can have sorrow, whatever that feels, because you're going to step out of it. The thing is that when we don't believe that, we're afraid, we're scared to go into the emotions, because we're afraid we're going to be stuck there, or we're afraid that we're going to lose ourselves in it. But when you know that that's just part of it, you can also embrace it fully. So to just give a symbol of it, imagine that you have a bottle and you have this much water in it. And when you don't empty the water and you fill up new one, it will not be fresh. That's the same with this leadership thing. If you don't empty out the feelings and the stuff in your system, in your body, they will be there as a little shadow, taking that joy away from you, or taking that, energy, or the power of seeing what you want to see, or because there's this veil, you say veil, right? Of layer of, or a wet blanket over a fire that is your passion.
And I think that's a good analogy to talk about the water. A lot of people talk about the water being like everything that you have, you put into the glass and it's that fills over afterward. But you were talking about the fresh water. And that's a good new perspective I haven't heard before. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so stepping back to you, what kind of mind shifts have changed in your business journey that actually has given you the better result, or more consciousness, or a better meaningful life?
Well, the biggest shift I just mentioned in the beginning was my burnout in 2000. I had a severe burnout. I had a sick leave for 1.5 years, and it took time after that to come out of it. I lost my memory. I couldn't find my way home. I had physical issues that did not work in my body. So I was really, really bad. And I think also, if you look at the purpose of things, if I wouldn't have experienced that, I wouldn't be where I am now and do what I do now. And that is also why I have such passion, and I became a nerd of personal development. I spent 25 years nerding on personal development. And when you come to a certain state on personal development, you will open up to spirituality, because that's the next level. So if you look at Maslow's need pyramid, he actually did. It never came out, but he actually started on, when you are there, what's happening next? Because then you open up to the more altruistic way of seeing life and seeing, people and the world, and something else happens. So that was, of course, also a huge shift for me to see that it's not only what we see that is there. It's so much more. So when you imagine universe is so vast and so big, and when you start to look inward, you will understand that, oh my God, this is also as vast as the universe on the inside. So that was a huge shift for me. But then, business-wise things that is still happening with me, like in these struggles that we have in our everyday life. During COVID, I had a really good time, and I had, it was no problem for me those years. But after COVID, because then you hadn't worked actually so much for 2 years, then it started for me like, oh my God, now this needs to happen. It didn't happen. So and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I will go full all in. And I took all my money to invest in people in the UK that would help me with marketing and sales and everything. And it didn't go. It didn't go. It was like I just put all this energy, time, and money in, and it didn't work. And that was, I was overwhelmed. I was so stressed out, and had my memory of how that was in year 2000. And now I got like a second chance to deal with those kind of things about stress. And I actually left a little bit with fear, because I was like, oh my God, I was so sensitive, and I suddenly jumped into a box I hadn't been for 20 years. To be in that stress box, and old patterns came in that stress box. So yeah, and then it started rolling and started flowing, and now I'm again doing a shift in my company, working more worldwide and internationally, and I have a team internationally now. So then it was like, oh my God, there's so much to do and so much things, and I was like, okay, so now I had another chance of just balancing this in a total new way. So this time I've really managed to go through so much better than ever before, because I'm super sensitive to stress. Imagine what my body, was part of back then in 2000. So my whole system is like, I can look at my body and say, okay, I can see it, that this is happening now. My body is so reactive. All my memory cells are just going on like hyper. and I can watch it and see it with my conscious mind, and I'm try to manage and take care of it. And that was what happened this time. I have managed it. I have taken going through with it, and I can balance it, and I use the tools that I have. So we will always have these things. Now stress is my thing. It can be something else for someone else. But allow that mind shift to come over and over again. It's not like, okay, now I learn this. I don't need to go through this again. If it's not done, it's not done. Maybe you will. And then it's like, wow, I have another opportunity to go through this with more consciousness, or with in a better way than I maybe had the possibility to do the last time.
But I think that how we learn how to do leadership and consciousness and everything, it's like running a business. It's back and forth, and you have dips and you have valleys, and you have the rises and the tops and the peaks and everything. But
Yeah.
every single time when you have to go down in your, like, maybe you go down by like revenue, or you go down of energy, like there is something that needs to be taken care of, like you said, to actually move up and take the next step. It could be that you need to change your prices. Maybe you need to change your packaging. Maybe you have to change your messaging because the market's shifted or something. So because you have a tool set that you already use, doesn't mean that tool set is the right one in the future. So that's why the process of rinse and repeat, and like you said, you learn something new every single time when you go into those stages.
Yeah.
And I think that those people that never have had stress in their life, or kind of almost burning out, or having struggles that maybe there was in the family that happened, and it's bothering your business time, or your focus is not at the place where it should be. When you are in work, you should be like focusing on work, and when you're home, you should be focused on home. But sometimes it bleeds over, and you've never been part of those kind of feelings before. It's hard for you to say, hey, like, you know what? I need to practice this, because next time I'm going to be better. I'm not going to be like a superhero on this, but I'm going to be better. And for every iteration, I get better.
Yeah. And that empathy for yourself is so important, because you're quite lonely often in your role. If you're a solopreneur, for example, it's so important to have that. And also, like we talked before, to have the team that can support you and, be there on the side when you have both your celebrations and your downfalls.
But I also think that the same thing that you went through when you hired these people from the UK, and you like put yourself out there, you made yourself vulnerable, you paid them a lot of money, and you were like, hopefully this is going to work. And it didn't. And then go back and say, hey, do you know what? I need to have the courage to do it again with another team, in another place, in another way, instead of saying, I'm never, ever going to. Because that is so easy when we are so burned, like you were then, in a relationship or a success that didn't come, that we feel like it's like going on TikTok and saying, oh, TikTok didn't work for me. Or they go out and they do one like speaking engagement, and they felt like so uncertain, and they felt like so out there, and say, I didn't get any money from that. I didn't get any clients. I'm never going to do that again. But it's just because they haven't practiced and practiced and practiced and did it and really made it a good opportunity for them, if that's the case that they should. But I think sometimes we are so fast of deciding what is good or not for us.
And there's no failures when we can, that's part of it. Also know that there's no failures. It's just learnings and making us, choose something else or choose again, exactly as you say it, Sarah.
So I think that you're like, I listened to your backstory before, like you've been part of so many things, and you learn so many things because you're so conscious and curious about yourself and what you experience and how you react. So you have something like pretty exciting coming up this year, and I wanted you to be able to invite the listeners or the viewers to this podcast to take part of that. So please explain a little bit more about what the exciting thing is.
Yes. So part of this new team is international. I've had retreats for 20 years. both with Swedish people and also abroad, but mostly Swedish. So now this is an international retreat that we'll have in Bali in November. So I've been working, for example, with a shamanic tradition in Mexico for 10 years and then going to different nice, wonderful places to really step into a place in yourself where you are not distracted. Because when we are distracted in everything, I mean, if you, for example, were trying to sit in meditation and the phone rings, you will the energy will shift. And that's the same thing. But this is for a whole week of a retreat where you can really be with yourself, have the time to go within and be with your self-leadership, and also practices every day where we have breath work and meditation and yoga, and you don't need to be a yoga person because it's super simple exercises that you can come into routines that you can bring with you home, because you need to do it, and of course you need to do it after, and that's why we also have coaching sessions after the retreat, so you will keep on having, and you will have a chat where you can get support afterwards. Is so important. So it's a retreat for self-leadership, for becoming more authentic, to reach that part of you, go through those layers and transform those layers that hinders you in your everyday life. And this retreat is tailored specially for entrepreneurs and leaders and coaches who also are, love to serve others. But this retreat is only for those people. So that the people who are there, they can feel safe to let go whatever they want, so they can just enjoy. And the place in Bali, I lived there for 5 winters in Bali, and it's an amazing place. We're going to be this luxury, beautiful retreat place venue. Yeah, did I miss something? Is something you want to ask about it?
But I'm thinking, well, if we back up for our conversation we had before, when we said okay, I need to explore this feeling and I don't understand what it is. I was saying that. And maybe I don't have the self-leadership yet to get me out of that feeling. And that's why I'm afraid of actually getting into that feeling. Your retreat is excellent for saying, hey, here's a safe space for you to actually visit the places inside of you that you might not want to visit yourself because you don't know how to deal with it, actually. And then you are the support person who can help and say, it's okay to stay in this, but you have to stay long enough to actually understand, but then you have to get out of that to the next level. So if you are listening to this and you feel like you have inner work to do and you feel like you don't have the right person to coach you through that, you are a really excellent person to do that in a beautiful setting with other people to do it.
It is. And it's also, have you never been to, and even if you've been to retreats, I would say that because I have breath work, and breath work, transformational breath work is so beyond. If you've never done it, you cannot even imagine what's possible. I have athletes that have gone to one session that totally shifted their way of breathing in the whole system in the body, their focus. And this special girl I'm thinking about, she won a medal the next after this session. And people who have, maybe not cried in 20 years, and they go to a breathwork session, and for the first time, the feelings that I haven't been able to let go, they let go. And to get the clarity and there's so much power, you get into your power really when you do this kind of breathwork, because it's very powerful. It's not even explainable in words. You need to feel it.
That's what I think is really amazing with your retreat, because it's like a 360 thing for the human being. It's not just go and learn one thing. It's like we have different tools to make sure that we are moving you into the right direction in the way that you should go. So I think that's...
Yeah, it's actually called the art of living. So it's actually, I always include body, mind, emotions, and soul. So it's always that holistic perspective of how can you actually go home, have these concrete tools, and you can actually start living your self-leadership.
And I think also the way that you package this with the support afterwards to get the sustainable habit of actually doing this over and over again. So it gets into the grind of you being you. It's a good way for other people that are listening to this podcast to look at your packaging. How can you sustain a result for your clients Because what you said, hey, let's deep focus on this, take out all the other worlds out there. Yes, focus on you and on being here, doing this transformation. And we will keep that transformation going like after that, like deep dive into this.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easy to just have 5 days, that's it. Or you do the coaching every week and there is no starting point that is really transformational. So it's a good packaging, I think.
Yes, it is. And actually, some part of that is also what I learned when I've had leadership programs. Because when you work with buddies on leadership programs and you work over time, because I mean, I work with team and leadership, I go in, I go out, and then I try to keep them. But if you meet, like you have one meeting there, like you have on your academy, then you can work with buddies and you will have a continuous growth. And it will not just be some inspiration that you get for one day or something. It will be something that really profoundly shifts in you.
Yeah. And the superpower of the month theme for May is actually packaging your service. And that includes also the packaging, and it's also the marketing and the delivery of it. So it makes more sense for you to actually take that person from where they are to where they should be when you have transformed them in the way that you ask them to join you to the program or to your service. So this is going to be a really good example for me to bring up on that thing. So I think that if someone really wants to get to know more about this retreat, I will put the link into the show notes so they can directly go to your website and see all the fantastic things that you are doing during the time you are together, but also afterwards. That's included. And do you have any final thoughts of before we round off this podcast that you want to bring to the listeners?
Oh, of course, you're always welcome. I'm on most social media with my name, Anna Ugander. You can always connect if there's, of course, questions or something else. And I would like to ask you a question, Sarah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
what's conscious or authentic leadership for you personally?
well, I think that you have to be grounded in yourself. If you're uncertain, you have things to work on with yourself. And I think that we are growing as people. I'm totally more conscious now than I was when I was 20. So when I feel so grounded in what I do and my competence and the things that I do for my clients or that I do for my kids or I do for my husband or my mom or my sister, all these people around me that needs me, I need to be more conscious how to serve them better, but also serve myself. Because what you do about the input, if I don't have time for myself and really just ground myself, I can't do what I do. So for me, it's important to fill myself with things that I need at the moment, to be conscious of what am I missing? Is it like a walk, or is it quiet time, or is it specific food, or a supplement that I need, or I might need to go into hormones and look into those things. Actually. So I think that we always have to be like you said, we have to find a way to listen to ourselves to make sure that we are the best person that we can be at the time. We can strive to be someone else, but if that's the case, we need to have someone who can guide us to come to that phase. Because I think that we have a lot of things inside ourselves that we need, but we also need guidance from other people like coaches or people that know their, like you said, you have been nerding into this area. I've been nerding into other areas. But I feel like if I'm not present, if I'm not conscious when I am leading my members inside of the academy, or if I'm not conscious listening to my podcast guest, I'm not present. And that's not who I want to be when I show up. I want to be where I am.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so true.
So thank you so much for joining us at this show today. It's been a pleasure having you. And I wish you all the best in Bali, but I think that we can have a conversation before that. But if you are listening to this podcast, go into the show notes and see what this is, because it could be a spot open for you. So I'm super happy to have you here, and talk soon.
Super happy to be here with you, Sarah. Yes, definitely we do. Thank you.